In 1801, the United States under the Constitution was very young, only about 12 years old. And, compared to its size today, the country was very small. The land was not crowded. Most people at the time were farmers who lived far away from each other. But some Americans wanted more space. They moved west, over the Allegheny Mountains. Many settled in today's states of Kentucky and Tennessee. Traveling was difficult. Few roads existed. People moved on foot, with horses, or by boat. Boats were especially important. Boats moved supplies from the east coast of the U.S. to western settlers, and Americans used boats to send crops, furs, and other goods to international ports. In other words, boats were like trucks, and rivers were like highways. The major rivers in the U.S. at the time all flowed into the port of New Orleans. As a result, New Orleans was one of the most important places on the continent for Americans. The president, Thomas Jefferson, noted that over 1/3 of America's goods passed through New Orleans to go to market. There was only one problem. The United States did not own New Orleans. Who did own New Orleans? The port of New Orleans was part of a much larger territory called Louisiana. For many years, France owned Louisiana territory. In 1762, France gave the territory to Spain. In 1800, Spain secretly gave the territory back to France. The situation made President Jefferson uneasy. Unlike Spain, France was very powerful. Jefferson was afraid France would limit Americans' ability to use the port of New Orleans. So Jefferson offered to buy it. The French leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, refused. Napoleon had a plan to extend the French Empire into North America. First, Bonaparte sent French troops to the Caribbean island of San Domingue, today's Haiti. He wanted to secure the island's valuable sugar trade. President Jefferson grew even more worried. He tried again to buy the port of New Orleans. This time, American diplomats increased the offer to $10 million. Bonaparte again refused. But then the French leader received a surprise. In San Domingue, former slaves defeated the French troops. So Bonaparte sent more French troops to San Domingue. The former slaves defeated that army too. Napoleon realized that France would not take San Domingue and profit from the sugar trade. It could not support a French empire in North America, and it needed money for the wars it was fighting in Europe. So Napoleon called American diplomats to an office in Paris. A French official asked if the U.S. would like to buy New Orleans after all, as well as the rest of Louisiana territory. France accepted $15 million for the entire area, over 2 million square kilometers. The cost was very low, about 4 cents an acre. In the U.S., we call the deal the Louisiana Purchase. Historian Joseph Ellis describes it as the greatest achievement of the Jefferson presidency and one of the most consequential executive actions in all of American history. Why was the Louisiana Purchase so important? The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the U.S. at the time. Even today, the land accounts for about 1/3 of America's territory. It includes all or part of 15 current U.S. states. The Louisiana Purchase also includes the Mississippi River, one of the biggest rivers in North America, and all the rivers that feed the Mississippi. President Jefferson understood the value of the area. The fertile, diverse territory was good for farming and trade. Jefferson believed it was good for America's system of government, too. He hoped the U.S. would remain an agricultural country, populated mostly by farmers who governed themselves. He spoke of the country as an empire of liberty, even though about 1 in 5 people living in the U.S. was a slave. The Louisiana Purchase was also important for U.S. foreign relations. It ended the French presence in North America. It increased American political and economic stability. And it established the U.S. as one of the largest countries in the world, with enough natural resources to be an international power. But what and who was in Louisiana Territory? The American diplomats in Paris who bought Louisiana Territory were surprised and delighted by Napoleon's offer, but they did not really know what they were buying. The exact borders of Louisiana Territory were disputed, and few Europeans, let alone Americans, had traveled there. But the area was not empty. Native people had lived there for centuries. A number of American Indian groups, including the Osage and Sioux, hunted, traded, fought, and made their homes across the territory. President Jefferson was aware of these Indian groups, but he did not offer them any money for the land. Instead, he wanted the native people to enter into treaties with the U.S. government. Americans would offer them protection and trade. The native people, he hoped, would give up control of their land, adopt American farming practices, and make alliances with the U.S. government against England and Spain. In the meantime, he believed the U.S. government had absolute authority over Louisiana Territory.